Hello and welcome to the Cup of Triathlon podcast. We're brought to you every week by our sponsors, oxygenaddict.com,
Triathlon coaching with Coach Rob,
triathlonbox.co.uk,
to be organised in transition,
and wearebikehouse.co.uk
for all your cycling needs.
And we're also going to give a shout out to the show's patrons. We really appreciate you supporting the show. Thank you very much. You can find out more about becoming a patron over on the page. Download this from oxygenaddict.com/patron. And do me a favour, if you do sign up to be one, include your name in it, because we had someone sign up just today, Hells, and I can't read out his or her name because it didn't come through. We've only got an email address, which I won't be reading out on air this time.
No, don't do that.
Don't do that. Helen does backflips when I read them out. She goes, "Oh, you have to go back and edit that out now."
I say, no, Rob, you just read out their email address. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Oh, professional.
Well, let us know who it was, because then we can give you a shout out.
Absolutely. Right, so tell us what's coming up in today's show, Hells.
Well, there's loads of results to talk about, Rob. We had the European Triathlon Championships. We've had Ironman Brazil, so we're going to go over some of those. We've had a couple of good wins to report as well. We have coming up later on an interview with Michelle Dillon, who is going to be competing at the World Duathlon Championships this weekend as a pro. Yep, she used to race pro, then retired. So it'll be interesting to hear her thoughts ahead of it. At the age of 43, she's going to be racing against the athlete that she coaches as well, Emma Pallant. So that
is super, super cool.
Yeah,
Hells.
I know. So it's a good one. So listen out for that. We've also got Coach's Couch with some tips about getting up your bike speed. And we're going to have an interview with another really inspiring woman called Caroline Bramwell, who has a stoma, Rob. So she does triathlon with a stoma, and she's awesome. So listen out for her as well.
Can't wait to hear that. That sounds like an amazing story to me. It's hard enough doing triathlon without worrying about that,
Exactly.
isn't it?
So, and she's brilliant. She's got, mum of two, really busy, and has just absolutely fallen in love with triathlon too. And it's a great story.
Rock and roll. So hang around to hear the stories later on. So let's kick into today's results, Hells. We've had a pretty busy weekend of racing around the world, haven't we? And we're going to kick it off over in Ironman Brazil, where there was some pretty toasty racing going on, even though the weather wasn't as toasty as we were expecting it to be.
No, I read Tim Don's race report, and I think they're expecting nice weather. You just imagine Brazil, don't you? Sunny and everything, but it was not that way. I think it was pretty wet.
Yeah, it rained all day in Florianopolis, which sounds like the place where Superman goes on holiday for his holidays.
Does he?
I guess. Yeah, Florianopolis. That sounds like kind of Superman type town, doesn't it? By the coast somewhere. No,
I'd never put that.
Just me.
Never put that association together.
I'd be right at home in Big Bang Theory. I could be hanging out with Sheldon. We'd get on great, me and him. Anyway, super fast times down there. Brent McMahon from Canada set the third fastest time ever recorded over the iron distance with, wait for this, Hells, 47.47 on the swim, 4:11 on the bike, and a 2:42 marathon to close it out.
With a total of 7:46.
So he was only a handful of seconds behind Marina van Hohenacker's 2011 race number from Austria, which at the time was the world best time, and then got bettered, I think, by a couple of minutes. Well, 4:37 behind Andreas Rehlert's mark from Challenge Roth in 2011. So that's a stunning performance from him, isn't it?
Absolutely nailed it, Rob. And the fact that he won by 20 minutes as well, nearly.
I love these guys who, they realise they're on the race of their career, they feel awesome and keep pushing, even though that, let's put it in perspective, 20 minutes at that speed is about 4 miles, isn't it? It's the thick end of 3.5 miles for sure. So 5k ahead of the nearest competitor, you're still pushing yourself to run 2:42 marathon. That's brilliant.
Because the marathon, was 5 minutes faster than the next quickest one. The bike was pretty much 10 minutes faster than anyone else. Wow.
Good going. Now, in your reading of Tim Don's report, there's 30 seconds between him and Kevin Collington in third. Does he go into details of how the race went?
He was saying that he noticed, I think when he got into T2, he had heard that they were 10 minutes down, and I think Tim says that he thought he was flying on the bike, and so to learn that Brent McMahon had gone and, ridden pretty much 10 minutes quicker because they all came out the water together, those top three. And he was a bit like, wowzers. I don't know, Rob. I don't.
You got to imagine if you've ridden 420 on the bike, you think you're in for a because that's like 41.5k an hour or something absolutely mental, isn't it? You don't expect to have lost 10 minutes when you're riding like that.
It's just, no, and that was Tim's point. I think he was just like, oh my goodness. It was clearly Brent's day, wasn't it? Clearly his race. Yeah. So, yeah, it was super impressive.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if that's his season done now, or whether he can back it up later on in the year. He's put his name on the board for sure with that performance, hasn't he? It's a performance with no weaknesses. So good work, Brent. Let's see if we can track him down in the wildest Canada and get him on.
Oh, so Tim Don here says, a smooth transition to someone shouting 10 minutes to Brent. Wow, had he really rode 8 minutes plus into me in 90k. So and then he said about his quad started to cramp and he had to walk a little bit, and he said I could see Kevin was closing in on me, so he gave himself a stern talking to. I got my head in gear and pushed on. So there
you go. It's good to, man, Kevin Collington must have been really pushing hard to try and get to within 30 seconds of him. That's like the ultimate distance, isn't it? You're 200 meters down the road behind someone in a marathon in the closing miles. Heartbreaking. Great racing though. I've got to say the times there all look really quick. If you went 8:21 on the men's side, it would only get you 9th place, so you wouldn't even get a payday for going 8:21.
It's obviously a fast course, isn't it?
It was a fast course and a fast day for sure, yeah. Over on the women's side, Liz Lyles from the USA took it out in 8:54. Maureen Hoof in 9:09, and oh golly, go on, Grutz Frades from España.
Grutz Frades, yeah.
That'll do. That's close enough.
Frades, yeah, in 9:15.
You say it so much better than me.
I did spend some time living in Mexico, so
Yeah.
Yeah, Liz Lyles.
And I haven't.
Liz Lyles, though, brilliant win for her. She did it 8:54, as you just said, Rob, I think. But I think she was going there for the win, and she's a crazy busy mum of two as well. So how she packs it all in, who knows? But really, really awesome racing from her.
Yeah, 4:48 on the bike is shifting some, isn't it?
Yep.
Good stuff. Good racing down in Brazil. Right, so next bit of news then over at Challenge. Go on, pronounce it. Salou. Am I correct with that?
Sounds great. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. I know your toes are curling, going, oh, it's awful. In the ladies' race, we had the wonderful Susie Cheetham take it out in 4:16 and take 10th overall in the process. So well done, Susie. Takes the win over Sarah Munoz in 4:22 and Coralie Seidel from Austria in 4:24 with Kimberly Morrison in 4th in 4:28.
Solid racing there as well then.
Indeed. Do you want to have a crack at the men's names, Hells?
No, I'm going to leave it to you, Rob. I love it.
Oh, beauty. Loving it. Inaki Balelu. I'm doing my best impression of Bevan from I Am Talk today, aren't I? Eduardo Las from Brazil in 2nd and Jonathan Chiavatella from Italy in 3rd in 3:56.
Well done.
Good to see Susie back in winning ways there. That'll give her confidence a boost, won't
awesome. It? Yeah, fantastic. And I reckon now she's clearly completely and utterly recovered from that injury.
Yeah, good to see her back firing on all form again. Right, and so that sends us over to the ETU European Championships in Lisbon, Portugal, the Olympic Distance Championships. So we've got to start with the ladies on this one, haven't we?
Yeah, because it was a gold medal for India Lee, which is fantastic. She won in 2:04.03 and then went on and joined the mixed relay of GB as well, and they went on to take gold too. So she was part of that team. So what a brilliant weekend for her.
Double gold weekend. Well done. Yeah.
So India Lee took it out. Then we had Yulia Yelestrova of Ukraine in 2nd and Sofia Kovac of Hungary in 3rd. Over on the men's side, oh, that's a familiar name, isn't it? It
It
is.
sure
Javier
is.
Gomez took the win in 1:49. My friend Dimitri Polyansky, who I raced against in Cyprus, one of them I did, Rob.
Maybe that's lifted his
Absolutely,
confidence
that's
rating, you
it.
held. That's what gave him the confidence to
You know,
step
being
up.
being on the same start line. I think they did the sprint though, didn't they? I did the Olympic.
Mate, you should have got the interview.
The
You should have had your recorder with you. You could have, what's it called, doorstepped him.
Says he who did such a great job with that in Fuerteventura. So Dimitri Polyansky got second in 150, and then Andrea Salversberg of Switzerland got bronze in 150.32.
Now, Helen, in my defence, although I didn't get an interview with Freddie Van Leerd,
Nick
I
is
did
right.
get a photograph of him looking very uncomfortable standing next to me wearing just his Speedos. Now, I'm not sure that counts for radio, but I moved in for the photo in anticipation of being able to get the interview with him later on, and we could have used it as the cover shot. However, every time he saw me after that, he was off down the other end of the buffet faster than you could say, I'm riding the Cervelo P5. Never to be seen again. And it shook my confidence.
Oh dear.
I'm half the reporter I used to be.
Polyansky, the English wasn't too great actually. No.
Oh, really?
Wasn't superb. It was okay, but
I bet his English is better than my Russian.
quite possibly. The only word of Russian I know is niet, which is no.
Yeah, I know that.
I don't know Russian. Anyway, Rob, moving on. Well, we should mention actually a lot of age groupers. Oh no, we should mention the some of our GB elite athletes as well, shouldn't we?
We should.
But I don't have the bit in front of me, which is why I'm kind of struggling. So,
No, me
hold on.
either. We need to go back.
I've got it. Right. So, sorry, on the women's side then, Heather Sellers got 7th, Lucy Hall 10th, and Jess Learmonth 20th. Grant Sheldon was the top finishing elite male in 10th, Mark Austin 15th, Tom Bishop 19th, and Morgan Davis 45th. And,
Okay.
Rob, there were
Count them.
41 medals for the GB age group team in the sprint distance. And then on Sunday, in the standard distance, GB age group has picked up another 32 medals. 7 of them are gold. So very well done to, that's a great performance from all the GB age groupers.
Yeah. Congratulations to Team GB age groupers. Get yourself down. If you're one of these people, I was talking to one of the guys I coach about this the other day. If you're one of these people who's wondering, they're on the borderline and am I good enough to go or not? Get your name in the hat. And the worst that happens is you don't get picked. Who knows what might happen? By this time next year, you might be another 10 minutes faster and you might be getting a medal out there. So get your name down and go for it. It's a massive leap of confidence, isn't it, to put your name down to try and qualify for your country. But I think we've got to try and inspire people to get in there and give it a go, because the worst that happens is actually not that you don't get in. The worst that happens is you never bother applying.
I totally agree with you on that one, Rob, because, it's really how many of your work colleagues can say, oh yeah, I've represented my country at a particular sport?
Yeah,
Not
it's
many
cool.
of them. And how many of them are able to pull on a GB tri-suit? Again, probably not many of them. So give it a go and be proud of it. And even if you just do it once, it's a great experience.
Now, the only problem is that if you get your GB tracksuit at the moment, it's one of those ones that I think isn't going to date that well.
They always change. They always change them.
It's that like kind of shiny 1970s retro style tracksuit at the moment, isn't it? I got mine when it was Adidas, and it still looks like, the kind of thing Daley Thompson wore. Mind you, that's pretty retro. Maybe that's why I liked it. I'm showing my age now.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, give it a go, though, basically, is the thing. You can go on the British Triathlon website, go to the age group section, and you can read up about all the qualifiers there, or what you have to do, because some of them you don't have to qualify at specific races. You have to submit times. So do check it out and read what applies to the bit you're interested in.
I think it's the middle and long distance stuff you've got to apply for and tell them your race results, and the sprint and Olympic you've got to race head to head with other people and go for the slot that way. So yeah, get
And
on
while we're
it, kids.
talking,
Get yourself
Rob,
applied. Get
well, yeah,
inspired.
totally. While we're talking age group stuff, just shout out best of luck to everyone racing in Avilés at the World Duathlon Championships this weekend.
Cool. Well done, you. Okay, now then, a little bit of British interest here. It's the first, I think, like the first season opening big 70.3 type race this weekend with the Outlaw Half in Nottingham, wasn't it?
It really was.
Now, for any of our international listeners, if you're considering coming to the UK to race and you're looking at what races to do, the Outlaw series of races will give you a race organised on a level with the other big internationally well-known organisers. I think it's fair to say, isn't it? They've got a really good brand going over here in the UK, but people might not have heard of them outside of the UK. So yeah, this weekend was the first of their two 70.3s in the country, or half distance races called the Half Outlaw, based at Nottingham's National Water Sports Centre. So swim takes place in a rowing lake, which is 2 kilometres long, which is the perfect distance, isn't it, for an Ironman when you think about it, Hells?
Oh yeah, that is
out and back.
Yes.
You can swim an Ironman with one turn.
Good for people like me who aren't particularly good at sighting in the water.
Well, you'd think so, but I've looked at a couple of interesting Garmin traces from people who've raced this race, and it's not as easy to keep going in a straight line as you'd imagine.
That is the one problem I have, right? It's fine going in a straight line. I don't have a problem with that bit. Okay, but the bit that I do struggle with is actually seeing that far, because clearly I am pretty blind as a bat without my glasses on. So, yeah, if I can see what I'm swimming to, I can swim pretty straight towards it. But yeah,
it's a tough one. You got to swim close to the guide thingies, I suppose, haven't you?
Yep.
Close into the guide,
anyway,
boys.
There we go. Right, Outlaw Half. It was a great race, wasn't it?
In terms of racing, I don't think it gets any better than this. It came right the way down to the wire. It was heralded in advance, really. There were some really, really fast guys racing, and I think it's fair to say it was a field worthy of one of the big international 70.3s, certainly on terms of the domestic scene here. We had Carl Alexander racing, we had Joel Jameson, Simon George, Matt Dewis, and also making his debut over 70.3 was friend to the show, Matt Bottrell, who was on a few months ago, wasn't he? Who is a 30-time national time trialling champion in cycling and silver medalist at the World Age Group Championships. Or the World Amateur Championships, I should say. And he was stepping up for the first time to his 70.3 race. And I think there was a lot of interest from the fast boys to see how Matt would go over 70.3, because his bike is just so strong. People were really running scared of how good he was going to be. So as things played out, Hells, do you want me to talk you through it? So we had, off the front went Simon George, zoomed away. At T2, Matt Bottrell had pulled back something like 7 minutes, I think. He lost 7 minutes in the swim, and he pulled back nearly all of it on the bike to enter T2 in second place, passing hundreds of athletes on the way. So showed that he's obviously, we never had a question about his standard on the bike, and he was neck and neck with Carl Alexander. So it was all to go for. Matt had a decent run. I think he came in about 134, 135, but there was some seriously smoking fast runs going on at the front end. Do you want to know what happened?
I've got a photo in front of me with arrows of someone at the finish line and someone about 10 meters behind.
What do you reckon?
Meters?
No, it's more 15. Than that, isn't it?
In the finish shoot.
15 or 20 metres behind. Carl Alexander caught Simon with less than half a mile to go and passed him, chased him down on the run. It's really astonishing piece of racing. When it goes on TV and it gets put up on YouTube, people should check this out, because it'll be a really, really sort of exciting race.
Yeah. It just, the way that it's been described and that final run, and for Carl not to give up at all and keep pushing.
Yeah, sure was. 4 minutes down with half the run to go, and he made up over the last half.
That's great, isn't it? That's it. See, I love it. That is inspiring.
Yeah, proper racing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Good stuff. Now, so we had the top, let me find the top three here. Scroll down. Here we go. Top 3. Carl Alexander takes it out in 4:11. Simon George in second in 4:11, 8 seconds behind him. So 4:11.12 to 4:11.20. And Joel Jameson in third in 4:13.26. Over on the ladies' side, we had a win for Linda Evans in 4:40. Claire Shear-Simmons was in second with 4:50. And Rebecca Nacone with 4:56 in third place.
A little bit more comfortable win there for Linda on the women's side.
Yeah, 10-minute won on the bike, apparently put in a devastating bike performance. So well done to her.
Fantastic. It's great, isn't it, that the domestic scene is really up and running.
I really like that. As much as I like challenge and as much as I like Ironman, I like that there's a little guy out there putting on events that have grown and grown and grown, and they started with sort of grassroots club events, and they still put on the club relays and stuff like that, but they've managed to grow their brand and have, the Outlaws grown into a brand now, hasn't it, with a full distance race, 2 half distance races. I think that's really great, and it's brilliant that the UK scene can support
totally.
that.
And the Outlaw, and well, both of them, don't they? The Outlaw and the Outlaw half, they sell out really quickly, which proves the popularity of them. And I've only ever heard good things about them.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, while we're on the subject of Claire Shear-Simmons, she dropped us an email actually, and she said, "Thanks very much for the support, love the show and all that good stuff." And she said, "Would you mind mentioning?" Do you remember Claire works at a place called Race Hub? She's down in the Midlands, and they've got like an open water swim venue and watt bikes and a retail place. Well, they're having an open day on Saturday, the 4th of June. You can find all the information out over on their Facebook page or at racehub.co.uk. And they're going to have an open water swimming race. They're going to have watt bike sessions you can do. There'll be transition training, wetsuit demonstration from Zone 3, transition masterclass, open water swimming sort of teaching session as well. So it sounds like it'll be a pretty cool day actually. So go over there and check them out. They were burgled recently, got broken into, and loads of the bikes they had for sale were nicked. So they're kind of trying to have a relaunch to get some footfall back through there, I think. So get down and support them. They're a cool group of people.
Awesome. Rob, should we switch to our first interview of the week?
Let's do it. Tell me about Caroline Bramwell.
Well, Caroline Bramwell, as I said a little bit earlier, so she's a mum of 2. She only got into triathlon a couple of years ago and is building up towards Ironman UK in, just 6 weeks now. But what's really interesting and really inspiring is that she has a stoma. So she talks about having to deal with that throughout training and throughout racing, and how she... how she does, she still races. She did Slate Man the other weekend. She's doing Ironman, and she's loving her new sort of fit lifestyle. So here we are. Here is the interview with Caroline Bramwell. Caroline Bramwell, welcome to the Cover of Triathlon podcast.
Thank you.
It's great to have you on, and the reason I wanted to get you on was because I saw something on Twitter about you, and I thought, oh my God, that's pretty inspiring. So I think you've got a bit of an inspiring story to tell, and I'm going to let you tell it rather than me tell everyone. So if you want to sort of sum up pretty briefly the last few years.
Well, I've only got into triathlon 2 years ago. I was a non-swimmer completely. I mean, I could flounder around with the children in the pool, but my 2 young children swim like dolphins, so obviously I wanted to learn to swim. But just going back before triathlon, I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis when I was pregnant with my daughter. She's now 11, but I was seriously ill at the time I was pregnant and couldn't be treated until after she was born. So after she was born, it was confirmed it was ulcerative colitis and put onto steroids. So I sort of yo-yoed with my health for 5 years, trying to manage this horrible condition. Ulcerative colitis is like Crohn's disease. It's where your immune system attacks you, thinking you're the virus. So you lose a lot of blood, you're fatigued, and you don't have as much absorption of nutrients. because it's attacking your internal systems. So you can't absorb goodness from food. So you become really sort of fatigued and wasted away a little bit. So I was on medication, which was steroids, for almost 5 years, trying to get that under control.
Well, and I guess at that time, probably not doing much exercise at all.
Oh, no, and I will be completely honest, I was a total couch potato. I didn't do any sport, really. I think I'd ridden a bike once in the past when I was young, but I wasn't a sports person. I love watching it. I love watching things like the Ironman and the Tour de France and things like this and think, oh, amazing, amazing. And just to see what they can achieve was fantastic. It was the sort of thing I used to watch on the television. And I suppose it was only when you get to the edge, as I did with my illness, that you suddenly realise you've got to make the most of life and get back out there, really.
So you took quite a decision, didn't you, to actually have surgery to sort of help, really?
I did, yes. My condition, I couldn't get it under control. The colitis couldn't get under control, even with the steroids. At one point, I was hospitalised for a week with intravenous steroids. I had 2 blood transfusions, and I really became housebound because the condition really is so bad you just can't go anywhere. You have no control of your system. So, yes, it was a pretty horrible way of living. And with 2 small children, I couldn't really get down on the floor, play with the kids, because it would cause a bit of a flare, and I'd have to go bombing out of the room to the bathroom rather fast. So, all in all, it was a pretty horrible place to be. The option really was to consider surgery. And I think you just get to a point thinking, I don't want to live my life like this. I want to do something and get beyond it. So I had to come to the conclusion that I would confront the surgery option. I think everyone avoids it if they possibly can. But actually, I'm so glad I did, and I wish I'd done it sooner, actually.
And do you think people avoid it for quite a while because perhaps of the stigma attached or because of the fear of what might happen?
I think there is obviously still very much a stigma around having an ostomy or a stoma and having to have a bag, a colostomy bag or an ileostomy bag. And I suppose I was probably in the same boat back then. I didn't know much about it, so you just thought, oh my God, I've got to live with that thing. But actually, the more I've learned and the more I've realised, actually, it was the best thing, because my life was horrible. And I thought, well, having a bag is better than being stuck in the house doing nothing for the rest of my life. So, and I made the decision to have mine as a permanent. You can have them reversed, depending on the case. But mine, no, I made the decision. Mine was that bad. I had to have it done permanently. And, so glad I did. So I took up cycling, and now here I am doing triathlons.
So how long after you had surgery did you take up cycling?
Well, having been on the steroids blow you up big time, eat really big and bloated. So I was very, very big, very depressed to look at myself in the mirror. And so I actually signed up to do a cycle ride, which was just over a year after my surgery. And I cycled London to Paris in 24 hours.
Wow.
A year after my surgery. I had the surgery in the March, and then a year later, July, I rode to Paris in 24 hours with a charitable event and was there to watch the Tour de France come in. So that was my first fitness-friendly.
Can you describe what was going through your mind when you saw the Eiffel Tower at the end of your ride?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's phenomenal. Riding for 24 hours was really hard. And going through the night, you get some big dips. There are some low points. You're feeling fatigued. It's all about fueling, all the sorts of things we now know with the triathlon. But I just remember the best times were coming through woodland in France as the sun came up with cockles crying in the fields, and then riding into Paris for 9 o'clock in the morning, and coming down the cobbles, down the classic cobbled streets, down that Champs-Élysées, and then turning to the Eiffel Tower, and just knowing that we've made it within 24 hours. And that was that was a year after surgery.
That's incredible.
That's a fantastic feeling, yeah. So I loved it, absolutely loved it. I've done another 24-hour event since a couple of years later, and now it's triathlon.
And so physically, when you were on your bike or when you were training for your 24-hour ride, you know, do you face any sort of difficulties that someone without a bag might not face?
Yeah, the things I have to consider when I'm training are that without a large intestine, I have a reduced absorption rate of calories and fluids.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an exact figure, but typically around about 80% absorption. So I have to be hydrated well. I need to make sure my electrolytes are spot on, and I need to be properly fueled because my body needs extra calories over and above a normal athlete. So those are things I have to really be conscious of when I'm training as well as competing. And on the bike, obviously having a pouch, I've just got to make sure I've always got medical supplies, a spare set with me, just in case I have an issue with a bag.
Yeah. And is that, I mean, has that ever happened, having an issue with the bag when you're out training or anything?
Not of late, because I think over time I've learnt different products are out there and finding the right ones to suit my training. But I do remember cycling on the London to Paris, having to dive behind a bush to go and change my bag, which, because I didn't sort it when I could have done, so it started to give out on me. So, you just have to be ready to find bushes. So, nothing new there. Colitis. I live like that when I colitis.
And Caroline, it's not meant to sound like a bad question or anything like that, but I mean, the first time you perhaps put a swimming costume on, I mean, did you feel sort of a little bit more self-conscious or anything like that, getting into a pool with it?
Yeah, and I think it's aesthetic more than anything else. Because you felt worried that people could see it through your costume and things like that. But over time, I've come to terms with it. Yes, you can sometimes see it. Depends on the outfit I'm wearing. But I've actually now found a company that designs swimwear for people with ostomies called Vanilla Blush, and she's actually designed costumes with a pocket inside them. So you tuck your bag into that pocket, and stunning swimwear. I'd happily lay on the beach in a bikini now with her stuff on.
Isn't that amazing?
There are specialist stuff, yeah. And I actually threw away all my bikinis when I had my surgery, and I am now, after all my training, prepared to go out and buy a bikini and get down on the beach.
That's great. I love it. So you did your cycle ride, and then you wanted to be able to swim with your children. So you're a non-swimmer, and now you're a competing triathlete. So how has that process been, learning to swim, essentially?
Oh, the learning to swim was a really hard one for me because I always had a fear of water. I could not put my face in the water. I would hyperventilate, panic, all from an experience when I was a kid. So for me, the water was my big fear. I couldn't do the front crawl. I hadn't learned how to do a front crawl. So I literally went to beginner lessons. And this was 2.5 years ago. I went and had my beginner lessons. And within 3 months, I joined the local tri club because I decided, well, if I want to be a triathlete, I've got to swim with triathletes. And I was still going for my beginner and improver lessons at the same time. And yeah, I really was in the deep end in every sense of the word with the triathletes. But they've been a fantastic club. My North Devon Tri Club have been fabulous. And as a result, I'm now swimming so much better. And I will say, most of them didn't know I had a stoma until probably this year, when it became a lot more public.
See, that's awesome in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's nice that they were supportive regardless of knowing that. I mean, one or two of the girls probably would know, but not as a whole. The club didn't know. And I think it helps enormously to have a club support you in your training regardless.
Yeah, and have that supportive group around you, and you can pick people's brains, and just the thought of perhaps, I can't be bothered to go out on my bike today, but actually, if I've got all my friends there too, it's fine.
Oh, absolutely. And we would swim every Sunday morning, and that's where the consistency of training came in. And that's when my swimming really improved. So I was having lessons in the week and then training with the Tri Club on a Sunday morning. And that's when it started to improve. Obviously, that was now 2 years ago when I joined the Tri Club. Last year was my first year competing, but only, I say small scale. I just remember my first sprint trial, a little in-club one, and just standing in the shallow end of the pool, I was terrified at the start of our own in-club try. Just the thought of putting the three disciplines together, just terrifying. So Yeah, and I was a rubbish runner. I still am a rubbish runner. I like the bike.
But how far have you come? Because you've signed up for Ironman UK, right?
Yes, in July I'm doing Bolton. I'm doing Ironman UK in Bolton. This year, really, I upped the game because last year I did thoroughly enjoy it. And being my first proper year of training and competing last year, I did sort of sprint tries. And I will say I did sign up last year and did the outlaw half.
Yep.
Because a bunch of us wanted to do it, and it was like a girls' trip. It was a bit of a road trip, so all the girls from the club. And we all went, and I think the guys in the club thought, it's going to be an absolute chaos. They're really not ready. And actually, all of us completed it. And I think we earned the respect of the guys in the club because they did actually say to us, do you know what? You all did brilliant regardless, and I didn't expect that. So we earned the respect of the guys for all going up and doing outlaw half last year. But it is quite a flat course, which is obviously why I was quite keen to try that one first.
Yeah.
But I'd never done any Olympic distance until September last year when I did Try the Beast, which is one down here in Lynmouth, which is very, very hilly. Very hilly.
So good prep for Bolton.
But it's all hilly in Devon.
Exactly.
I think Bolton will seem a breeze compared to some of the hills I have to train on around here. But, I've been doing some tough training, the hills, really. If you can get the hills nailed, you're right. I may not be quick, but I'm steady.
Wow. And, I mean, did you ever think, let's say 6-7 years ago, that you would be able to get to the start line of an Ironman and the finish line? No doubt.
Oh, yeah. It's easy walking up to the start line. It's getting to that finish line that's going to be the hard one. No, gosh, no. Watching these people on the television doing Ironman is just in awe. So to think that I am now facing that in 2 months' time is like humongous difference. But I've really shifted up gear. When I decided I was going to do it, I didn't even have a decent bike. I've been lucky to get 2 sponsors. Vanilla Bush were brilliant, and the other one was an Austin company called Trio Healthcare. And the 2 companies came together and have sponsored me so that I could get all the kit that I need. So I'm really prepared as well as I can be for this. So I've got my bike, I've got my carbon bike, I've got all the kit, I've got a new tri-suit being designed up for the event, and I've got a coach. So that's been a huge difference in my training, is having a coach this year. And he is an ex, not an ex, he is an Ironman. He's already done Ironman himself in the past. So he's been there, done it, and he's getting me ready for it. And I've just come back from the Slate Down Savage. And that was a tough one.
Yeah, how was it?
That was a really, really hard weekend. Savage is the 2 back-to-back triathlons. On Saturday we had the sprint tri, and then Sunday we had the Olympic. It's tough terrain in Snowdonia. Anyway, the lakes are freezing cold, but the hills going up the Penny Pass, Snowdon, is a long climb, a really long climb. And we just got hammered with rain, hail, you name it. We got pummeled with the weather. And it was only we got sunshine on the run on the Sunday afternoon. Or it was afternoon probably by the time I finished. But yeah, that was the only time we got sun. And I've come home with tan lines after all that.
Amazing. And so I think if you can do the Savage weekend, you will absolutely fly through Bolton, Caroline. I don't doubt it. I really don't, honestly. If you can do the Savage, you'll be fine. You will be fine in July.
It's mind over matter. The body will do it. It's getting my mind over it. The water still freaks me out. The open water is still my wobbly moments. And but having done outlaw half last year in the lake at Home Pier Point, I've got a better idea of what I've got ahead of me. 3 weeks' time, I'm doing the staff 70.3, all as part of training in the run up to Ironman. So 70.3 next, and then Ironman in July, and then I'm going to take a break for a holiday.
Thoroughly deserved. And Caroline, just before we go, what message would you give to anybody listening to this who perhaps thinks, oh no, that I can't do that? I
think life's worth living. You've got to actually have a go. If there's something you want to try, it's worth getting and having a go at it. It doesn't matter how slow you can be at it. It's the fact that you've got out there and done it. I never dreamed I could have done this, but I'm so glad I did. I mean, it's changed my perspective of everything, and I'm loving everything. So it's have a go. Don't worry about the fears. Yes, we all have fears, and I learned that this weekend at Savage. But it wasn't just me. There were a lot of people in the water with fears. But actually, there's something comforting knowing you weren't alone in that. And anybody who wants to have a go at triathlon, just get out and have a little go at it.
There you go, Rob. So don't be afraid of anything. Just give it a go. I love that attitude.
Yeah, totally inspiring. I tell you what, it's super, super brave. I've had a family member who's had one of those, and seeing what those people go through when they've got to deal with changing the stoma all the time, it's nightmarish enough just trying to get through the day sometimes, let alone imagining putting on a swimsuit and doing a triathlon and getting wet. And totally hats off. Caroline, you're getting Helen's pat on the back for this week.
Absolutely. Fist pump of joy.
I'm giving it away for
Thank
you, Helen.
Yep. Caroline gets my fist pump of joy. And really, really good luck for Ironman UK.
Yeah, good stuff. Right, let's shoot over and do a bit of Coach's Couch action, Helen. We had a question on email through from Michael Simpson.
We did. So Michael says, basically his swimming and his running has improved steadily over the last year, but he's saying his biking has stalled. He says most of his rides are in the Peak District, but when he's out, he just doesn't seem to be able to get his speed up. And so he's asking, how should he be doing sessions on the turbo, or basically how should he be getting faster on the bike?
Great question. And I think you gave away part of the answer there. Now, the challenge of living in the Peak District or living in a hilly area is, by necessity, you're going to be spending a lot of your time climbing up hills and then half your training time essentially freewheeling down the other side. So while that's good for certain elements of your fitness, it isn't good for other elements of your fitness. So there's a couple of things I'm going to give you as an idea here to try and improve your biking, Mike. I want you to try and head out and head away from the peaks onto the flats for every other one of your long rides, and just practice riding along at a steady pace in zone 2, or sort of that 60 to 70% of FTP if you've got a power meter, because that's going to teach your body to sort of metabolize fuel in a different way. Your body's never going to learn to do that if it's doing the kind of constant on-off, pushing hard up a hill, recovering again on the other side. So that's the first part of your puzzle that you're probably missing. The second part of the puzzle that you're probably missing is, I think you need to get yourself on the turbo trainer and you need to do some specific interval work aimed around improving the kind of threshold that's going to get you to ride faster overall. And by that, we're talking about 100% of FTP, or your threshold heart rate plus or minus a couple of beats, and do intervals so that you're doing 30 minutes of hard work within an hour's long session. We've talked about this before on the podcast. I don't think there's a better way to improve your overall bike fitness than spending time working at threshold. So the first thing you're going to have to do is do a threshold test, which is dead simple. You're just going to go as hard as you can for 20 minutes on the turbo. Whatever your average heart rate is for the last 15 minutes of that, we're going to take as your functional threshold heart rate. And if you're lucky enough to have a power meter, brilliant. You take your power from that 20-minute test, you multiply it by 0.95. That's going to give you what we're going to call your functional threshold power. And then when you're doing your intervals, we want you to be doing, for example, a really great session to go to is 6 sets of 5 minutes with a minute's recovery, all of them riding at threshold. So you don't get very much recovery, but you manage to ride, you'll be riding 30 hard minutes within a 35-minute main set there. And if you do that once a week or even twice a week, you're guaranteed to improve your bike power overall, which is going to improve your speed of riding on the flats as well.
Fantastic. I think I've done a few of those 6 by 5 minutes, Rob.
You sure have, Hells, over the years. Now, I'll tell you what, I'm going to throw in a little plug here for our sponsors, Bikehouse, bikehouse.co.uk. I talked there about power meters, and lots of people haven't got them still at the moment. They are the bar none most important piece of training equipment you can get for yourself. Bike House at the moment have got Garmin Vector 2S pedals on sale for $469.99. It says you won't find a deal like this anywhere else. Free delivery. You can contact them at We Are Bike House. It's We Are Bike House with HAUS on Twitter. So go and check it out if you need yourself a power meter. I think that's pretty competitive price-wise, Hells.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
That's a nice little tie-in, wasn't it?
That's good work there, one.
Nice little plug for the sponsors. Check it out over at Bike House. And do us a favour, if you go and buy from them, mention us, mention the show. Say Coach Rob and Helen sent you. And can Helen have a free drink next time she's coming by?
And a free light.
She forgets a bottle. God bless. Great shop. Get in there if you're anywhere near Stockport, and if not, I don't think their webpage is too sharp at the moment, but give them a ring. There's contact details on there, and they'll see you right. Awesome. Right, Helen, I think we need to go to our second interview of the day. We're doubling up, aren't we?
Double whammy here, because we're going for the double whammy of inspiration this week. So the second interview of the week is with Michelle Dillon of Team Dillon. Coach, former world champion, Commonwealth Games athlete. She's done absolutely loads. And this weekend, she is returning to the pro start line at the World Triathlon Championships in Avilés. And it was really fun catching up with her, Rob.
This is super cool because it's the equivalent. I mean, Michelle Dillon was the first female finisher at the Athens Olympics, am I right? Or was it Beijing? It was Beijing.
What?
You're not sure, are you, either? She was the first female finisher at one or the other. So that's a bit like... How long are we talking ago now?
Well, Athens was
20 years ago?
2004. Beijing was 2008.
Right, so either 12 or... It's pretty damn cool making a comeback at 42 to the pro ranks,
yeah, so
isn't
43. Yeah,
43.
so adult.
She's older than I am. That's like me making a comeback to the pro ranks.
It's great, isn't it? Rob, she didn't win. She competed at the Olympic Games in Sydney. So that's 2000. That was when triathlon made its debut. But before that, she ran at the Commonwealth Games in 1994 in the 10,000 metres.
She wasn't the first finisher overall, Hell. She was the first British finisher.
That was what threw me totally. I was like...
She was the first British finisher. She was either 5th or 7th,
That makes total sense. I was like, no, because then she'd be a gold medalist, and she definitely is not an Olympic gold medalist.
You know what I meant. We didn't know what I meant, clearly.
So, Michelle Dillon, welcome to the Cover Triathlon podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's a real pleasure. Michelle, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. I'm really well. Obviously, just been doing a little bit more training of recent times. And this has all come about very quickly, actually. A bit of a shock to the system. But no, I'm well. I'm really well.
Good. So you're going to be lining up at the World Triathlon Championships in just a week or so now, out in Spain. What's sort of going through your mind? It's been ages since you've been, no offence, since you've been lining up.
That's right. No, look, to be honest, I didn't expect to be going to the World to compete, and definitely not to be an elite as well. I mean, that's kind of come about all, like sort of out the blue, really, because basically I decided that I was going to do a little bit of training when I was at our base out in Spain. And I started riding and running a little bit out there. I always keep fit generally, but to actually sort of push, sort of harder sessions out, obviously that requires a lot more energy and a lot more focus, and you have to have a goal behind that. And I think I kind of had my eye on the Windsor Duathlon, the national championships, as a bit of a laugh, to be honest, more of a laugh than anything else. And Emma was like, yeah, why don't you race elite? And I was kind of like, do you know what? I'll probably embarrass the hell out of myself if I race elite. And she was like, no, you won't. Look, train and see how you go. So I started training with Emma and stuff. And obviously, I can ride with those, with the group and things. And then we started to do some harder bike sessions. And I realised I've still got a little bit there in the tank. Or there's obviously a bit of fire in the belly somewhere, because I was doing quite well on the bike sessions. I thought, well, at least I can still bike okay. But then it was obviously the running part that's always been the problem since I've had my back surgery back in 2008 when I had the double fusion. And it's like, well, can I still, am I able to still do sort of run sessions? And the answer to that question is probably not really, not to where I would like to be, but obviously I can still push to a certain level. And I think I've been doing sort of regular park runs on a Saturday, and that's been always, I've always been sort of around 17:30 to 18-minute mark. And, that's without sort of proper run sessions in there. That's just with just doing sort of hour runs most days.
That makes everyone feel.
Which is kind of, I know, I'm not trying to sort of like look like I'm not really not joking when I say this, but it's almost like, I think I've always been a natural runner, and it kind of comes naturally to me. But what the surprise behind this all is, with the fusion, I'm still able to do that, and I'm really thankful for that, and thankful for the opportunity really to be able to do it.
And after you had the surgery, were you out of running for, I don't know, like 4 or 5 years?
Well, I was out. I definitely couldn't run for at least a year because I had a lot of swelling in the back, and obviously I had to let everything just really heal up, because it's obviously having 2 discs out and having it fused and then having the metal put in. It was felt very strange. It felt like how I explain it would be like having a brick put into the bottom of your back. It's like. Yeah, and it kind of just feels like everything's just stuck in one place, and so you have less movement, obviously, bending forward, and I do sometimes still have trouble putting my shoes on. And that was one thing actually that I thought, come the national duathlon, like I said to Emma, I'm probably gonna have to sit down and put my shoes on, so I actually put a towel down into transition just in case. but thankfully I didn't have to use it, because I did a couple of little transition sessions beforehand, and I managed to kind of put my shoes on without any major problems. So I think that was kind of like that fear out of the way. But so going back to that question, so basically, 1 year of no running, and then I started to ride my bike again. And in fact, I came back and I started to compete on the bike a little bit, which was, I think that's what kind of made me realise that actually, I can still do something hard here without hurting myself. And that's why I took up biking for a while in 2010. And then I found out that, there was a lot of accidents happening around me whilst we were doing the road racing. And I thought, gosh, I don't want to ever get into an accident again and really hurt myself. So I did pull away from that. And obviously running my own business with the team Dillon coaching was quite hectic to try and ride, 4 plus hours per day plus run a business. So I realised I was, stepped away from that. And then I started just to kind of jog again, more just to keep fit really. And it was kind of the easiest thing to do for time management, because I thought, well, riding takes up so much time. You have to do at least 2 hours to kind of get something out of it. But, with running, you can kind of put your shoes on for sort of half an hour to an hour, and you do get a good workout. So that was kind of why I went back to jogging a little bit. And then I kind of, started to change my run technique a little bit and tweak things here and there, get into the gym and do some core work and things. And all of a sudden I'm starting to think, I can run 19 minutes, I can run 18 and a half, I can run 18. Oh, hold on a minute, I can still run under 18 minutes for 5K. So it kind of like was all like just a real progression really, and got to the point now where, I can still run okay, which is not bad.
That's amazing. So take us back to the British Elite Championships, and you put your vest on. You were lining up against Emma Pallant at that race. What was it like being back racing elite again after quite a while out?
Well, sure. Like, I always have a lot of self-belief, and I kind of did a few sessions leading up to the nationals, and I kind of got my head back into that, because obviously it never leaves you. Like when you've been there and you've been at that level before, you know how to switch back the head back on, and you know how to switch, the focus back on. And I think leading into that race, I kind of did a few sessions where I showed myself that I'm doing okay, and I should be, be able to stay with, the majority of the field. I didn't really expect, to be honest, that I would sort of come in fourth into the first run and transition. I was having a few issues leading up to the race, in terms of like a week before my calf kind of had a tweak, which was I was doing a park run and I had to pull out at the 2K mark, and That usually, because again, I was pushing it, and always trying to I always call it getting greedy. When you get greedy with your sessions, or when you think, I'm doing really well here, I want a bit more, you get greedy with it, you cross that line and then you take yourself over the edge. And that's what I did pretty much, I think, before the Nationals, is I was getting, fit, and I was feeling confident. And then I just took myself just that one step too far. And I tweaked my calf a bit, and then the whole week all I did was just nurse it leading up to the race. And I just sort of said to Emma, I don't know if I can make it to the start line. And she was like, she's a physio too. She does massage. We massage each other as well and stuff. So she did a little massage and things, and she helped loosen it off. And miraculously I was on the start line. I didn't feel the greatest on the first run, but I managed to hang in there. And then before because they all went off like rockets, and I thought, I can't go off this quick. And for me at my age, to be honest, and my stiffness that I've got in all my joints and my back and everything, it takes me a little bit to work into it. So by the time we sort of got to about the sort of it was only 2.5K the first run.
Yep.
But by the time we got into the first K, or K and a half, it was 5K the first run, I felt everyone dropping off, like people just dropping off, and I thought, oh gosh, I've got a gap here. And so that kind of inspired me and pushed me on to kind of stick with, the guys in front. But to be honest with you, Emma was waiting for me on the first run. I mean, we did have a plan going into this race that, if she could run slow enough for me to hang on.
Honestly.
Then maybe, I've got half a chance, because we could maybe do something on the bike. And it actually worked out really well, because there was only two left with us, and by the time we got out to transition, we'd already dropped one of those athletes, and then we had one person to contend with on the bike, and that was Hannah Kitchen, and she was just in front. And I said to Emma, just leave her out in front, and Emma was keen to peg her back really quickly, and I said, no, leave her out in front, and then we'll attack her on the second lap. Which was a bit mean, but it was the only way I was ever going to get on the podium. So we sort of crept up to her, and then we just attacked to the right, and literally just got a gap. And I was just looking back, just going 5 meters, 10 meters, 15. Okay, we've got this. Just keep pushing. And Emma did all the work on the bike, because she knew that this was a bit of a sort of a test, really, to see. She wanted to sort of test herself on the bike and just time trial, and I was just basically shouting at her.
Coaching on the go.
Yeah, just to keep riding, and I just kept on saying, if you want to show how good you are on the bike now, I need a minute, so you better ride hard. And she was just riding as hard as she could, bless her. And we got into transition. We thought we had a minute, but actually it was about 45. I didn't really look back, and I think I ran a bit too conservatively out of transition, because I thought, I've got this for second, this should be fine now. And then at the turnaround point, it was only 2.5K, Emma looked around and she said to me, you bloody better get a move on, because they were coming after you. And I was like, look back, and I thought, oh my God, they are as well. So I had to really push it hard home, and that's when I really pushed it and kind of brought the sort of K splits down slightly, and got myself across the line, in second place. But yeah, it was amazing feeling, to be honest, to be back racing again. It's surreal, really. It really is surreal. I never expected it, and I certainly didn't expect to be going to the World Champs in just over a week's time. I really didn't expect it at all.
When or how did you find out about that call up? Did you get a letter or an email, or how did that work?
Yeah, so I just got an email to say that you've qualified. I did obviously register my intent after the race to say that I'd like to go, and I actually said to the person that I think it was Ian Howard, I said, I'd like to go, and I said to him, to be honest, they probably wouldn't pick me, I'm too old. And he just kind of laughed it off, but actually, they did, fair play. So it's it's really nice to be able to put that tracksuit on again, and to be able to go out there and compete. I mean, again, I don't have any expectations at all for this race. It's just going out there and just being able to compete at that level again. It's incredible, really.
Well, it was it 2007 the last time you won gold at the World Triathlon Championships?
I got silver in 2007 behind Vanessa Fernandez. I've had 3 silvers at World Duathlon, and I've had a gold in 2005. So it's been more than 10 years since I won the gold medal there. Which makes me think, no, I know how old I am when I can look back.
That's amazing, though, isn't it? To be able to go back, over a decade on.
Oh, it's brilliant. I just still can't, yeah, I know, it's amazing. I think it's because I have been ticking over for, I haven't let myself completely go. I mean, I don't know what people do when they usually retire. I think mine was a forced retirement, so it wasn't like I wanted to retire at that point in 2007 when my back was really bad and I knew that things, I needed surgery and things like that. I was still winning at that point. I felt like I was just getting started. So it was almost as though, I think when you retire in that way and it's not something that you made the decision to retire, I think that's when you probably can come back and do stuff like I'm doing now and push yourself again, because you probably still have a little bit of hunger still in the belly there that was never really, it wasn't resolved, like you didn't finish on the note you wanted to finish on, and therefore you've come back and you want, you want to kind of keep still pushing, I guess.
And do you think Emma's going to be able to defend her title?
Well, I've just been to the track with her today, and I was coaching her today because we've been doing separate sessions on the run. Obviously, I can't stay with Emma, but she is in absolutely fire. She's on fire right now. I mean, she's in the best form I've ever seen her since I started coaching her, and that's been 3.5 years ago. She's absolutely on fire at the moment. I can't see anyone beating her at the World Duathlon. If they are, they have to be running super, super fast. So, and biking well too, obviously. So she's in great form, and she should really defend her title. Unless obviously, hopefully nothing, goes wrong. I mean, there's always, you can never say, she's definitely going to win, because there's no definites in anything in life. But I think she has a very good chance, a very strong chance.
And do you think you've got a chance of getting on the podium as well?
Oh, no, that's a big thing. No, I've looked at the field. Of course, I've looked at the field, and it's a strong field. I mean, it's, you've got the European champion in there, you've got the European silver medalist, the European bronze medalist, and I think even the fourth place getter at the Europeans as well. You've got Emma, and you've got a couple of others who are, quite swift as well. I mean, look, I'd love to get a top 10, and of course when that gun goes, I'm going to be as competitive as I possibly can be, and anything, I just don't know. I never put anything past me, because I just give it everything I've got, and I will absolutely smithereen myself, I'm sure, out there. But a medal is a big ask, I know, but you just don't know on the day. We'll just see. I'm definitely not expecting anything, but I'm just going to give it my best shot for sure.
It would be an incredible story. I love it. What's your training been like in the run up to this? So since April, and perhaps compared to the kind of training that you did, when you didn't have any back problems, sort of 2005, 2007.
Yeah, well, yeah, it has actually been very different. Actually, I cannot go to sort of threshold. I can't go to really top end. So I can't really get on the track, because going around one corner, like going around the sort of that bends all the time, is not good for me. I don't really run much on the treadmill as well. I actually just do more like fartlek work, where you sort of, I know I can go to the level where of pace and speed where I know I'm still in control, but I'm not out of control, if you know what I mean. I'm not going to hurt myself. I do a lot of say more sort of aerobic stuff. So I do a lot of stuff on the bike where I'm just riding along like 3 hours, 4 hours to get my aerobic base up. And then my speed work, I'll give you an example of a speed session that I do. Well, I call it my speed session, would be 3K warm up, and then 1K hard, 1K float, which is like keep the pressure on, but not like you're not jogging to an absolute walk or anything like that. Yep. And then 1K hard, 1K float, 1K hard. So you repeat that 1K hard, 1K float for like 8K with a 3K warm up and a 3K warm down. That gives you 16K of running. And that's literally been the only session I've done, my speed session. And also the Bushy Park runs of 5K, which is just flat chat from the start, which is obviously helping my fitness as well. And that seems to be working really well, because what I do with that is that I run about 6K to warm up before park run, which is a long warm up, I know. And then I cool down about 6K, which gives me about 21K for the day. So again, it's always going to be, for me, it's always like I have to warm up really well, and I have to rely a lot on my aerobic system and my aerobic fitness in order to, you know what I mean? Like it's more like it's less top end stuff, so I don't hurt myself, basically.
And,
yeah.
I mean, that seems like quite sensible advice for people who might also have had a bit of a niggle in the past, and the track work, that fast top end stuff is what is more likely to basically bring on the injuries again, isn't it?
Well, that's right. I think, you have to, most people have to realize that if they're not strong, like they've got the wrong technique, or, it's like not wrong technique, but, a technique that's injuring them, basically, if they're overstriding, or, they're not strong enough in the glutes or the hamstrings, they're using the wrong muscles when they're running, they're not fluid when they run, and they start to do really top end speed where they're going to hurt themselves, because if they're overstriding, for an example, and they're doing really high intensity work, then they're going to be breaking themselves. They're going to be loading up the knees, loading up the ITBs, and loading up the wrong joints, and then they're going to end up coming off that really sore, and that will then carry over to the next session. So it's worth kind of looking up, making sure that the technique's right, they're landing correctly, they've got the right strength and conditioning work underneath them, and just making sure that they're doing the right training and building up to speed, really, more than anything else, making sure that they're well conditioned before they go into doing really top end speed. There's no point. I mean, I've heard people before saying, it's sort of like December time in the winter, and they're like, yeah, I'm about to do a track session. I'm like, are you joking? I'm like, it's like snowing outside. You're about to do a track session, and it's winter, and it's not the best. That's not usually the time we do it, unless you're a pure runner and you're training for something specific. Then, but obviously, you have to really phase your training. You have to be very, very selective on. Especially, you have to consider like your age, obviously, your ability. What works for one person doesn't necessarily work for another person as well.
You mentioned strength and conditioning there. Is that now like a key part of your week? And was it previously always a key part, or have you upped the strength and conditioning?
You know what? I actually got injured doing strength and conditioning when I was an athlete quite badly, because I used to do all the wrong exercises. And to be honest, I don't do big strength and conditioning sessions. What I do is I do daily functional exercises that I use before I go running. Yep. So, for example, like TheraBand work to fire the glutes up, and some bridging, and a little bit of like TRX stuff, like one-legged TRX stuff, a little bit of Pilates work. Some lower ab stuff, which is really important for the control through the lower back and the pelvis. And I do all that kind of stuff more on a day-to-day. So I'm always working, it's sort of like little and often is the way I would work it, rather than going out and doing a big gym session for like an hour and not really sort of using it, functionally in the training, because you do that and then you come home, and then for me, I would just probably seize up after a gym session and be really tight and stiff. And so what I would rather do is just fire everything up beforehand, and then go out and use that firing up and that strength that I've just used, sort of, say I'll do it at home, and then I take that into my run sessions, and it really works for me.
That's really, really interesting. And I want to know, what's it been like over the past couple of months, since you knew that you got the call up, so I guess over the last month or so, what's it been like kind of coaching and training Emma at the same time, knowing that you're going to be competing against her as well?
Well, to be honest, I don't look at it like, with Emma, it's like she's in a class of her own, and I think, to be honest, I think she feels happy and content that I'm racing, because it almost feels like it takes the pressure off her a little bit, because I think when it's all just about Emma, sometimes she can get a little bit nervous about things. And, we actually talked about it today. We spend a lot of time together on a daily basis. And, we sort of said like, oh, at least we can just like chill out and just do our own preparation, our preparation together. And which is what we did before nationals as well. We had dinner together that night. Mm-hmm. The next day, she was actually massaging me, would you believe? Just to get me on the start line. And then we sort of we just like having a breakfast in the morning together, chatting away, and putting some music on or whatever's going to sort of get us in the right mindset. We warmed up together. We just do things together, and it's just like, okay, we know that once that gun goes, I mean, every man for themselves. I mean, but Emma's in a class of her own, and we are doing different stuff, obviously. We do our steady rides together.
Yep.
We never run together because Emma runs way too quick for me. But I have run with her in the past, just like long runs and things. But we're on a different schedule this week. I manage it so that I do my hard sessions sort of on a different day to her, so I can go down to the track and, for example, coach her today and give her time splits. And I did my fartlek session yesterday in the morning first thing, and then I'll go to the pool and coach her at the pool, stuff like that. So it's been you have to manage it, and to be honest with you, it's time consuming putting time into yourself.
Yeah.
I forgot what it feels like, to be honest, because I've been obviously, as a coach, you have to be very unselfish, and you have to put a lot of time into your athletes, and that's your job, and that's what you enjoy, and I've had to take a little bit of that for myself and put a little bit of time into myself and think about what I'm doing and managing my recovery and stuff like that. So it has been interesting to kind of have that like switch around a little bit.
Yeah.
But it does take up time, definitely.
Have you been doing your own plan, or do you, I don't know, just do you help you out at all with your plan, or have you done the whole of it?
Yeah, I pretty much do my own stuff. I've always kind of I just go by feel, because I know with me, if I can't, like, I have my plan in my mind what I need to do, and I know for example, this is going to be I feel like this World Champs is probably going to be more of a running race, so I've kind of upped my running sessions, but not obviously the intensity, just kind of put a little bit more of those sessions in there per week, and just kind of ridden where I could. But yeah, it's mainly just been my planning really, and hopefully it's going to be okay.
Talk us through a bit about how you got into the coaching side of things and the transition from athlete to coach. Was it smooth? Did you miss the racing to begin with?
Oh, definitely. I mean, when I first went into coaching, I mean, I've always been I've been that natural kind of coach, I think, from the very beginning when I was younger, because I used to drag a lot of youngsters out when I was a pure runner. I used to knock on everyone's door, like, right, you guys, are you coming out for a run? And I used to sort of like set the session, even though I didn't even really know. I mean, I just set a session and everyone did it. It was really funny. And I've always been like that kind of, come on guys, like that kind of motivator, I guess you could say. And so it's kind of been quite natural for me. But yeah, obviously when I obviously left the sport and I couldn't compete anymore, that was the first thing I knew I would be going into, because I just absolutely love, I love coaching, and I love helping people, and I love to inspire people. And I just get so much out of when one of my athletes does well, I'm on the biggest high, and it's the best job for me. Definitely, yeah, something that I was meant to be doing for sure.
I love it. And have you got quite a few age groupers who you coach now?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I personally coach about probably about 20 people, which is quite a lot. But I've also got coaches that work within our brand that obviously coach under our team and who are fantastic and do a great job. And we have such an inspiring team. We really do. We have such a great team of people who they all bounce off each other. So if someone does really well, then, everyone's congratulating that person. And we have a very good social media sort of following now as well, where everyone gets behind each other at the races. I think that's helped from having sort of a couple of training camps as well, which everyone's kind of met each other at. And I think too, sort of like, having sort of Emma and Stu as kind of role models, like racing at the elite level and doing really well, and people are inspired by that, and they love to be part of that as well. But yeah, no, it's just worked out really well, and we're always growing. We're growing very slowly, and I think it's just because we really enjoy what we do, and hopefully that shines through and filters down through our team, and everyone seems to be really happy and getting on really well, and obviously getting some fantastic results as well.
And have you got many athletes who'll be racing out at the World Triathlon Championships as well?
I've got a couple of age groupers out there actually, who I'm really proud of. They've both made the team this year, and they are ecstatic to have. And obviously Stu's going to come and watch as well. He's got an athlete racing, so so they're out there racing, and we're going to be there supporting them as well. And it's perfect because the elites race on Saturday and the age groupers race on Sunday, so we can actually be there to support them on the Sunday as well, which is really great. After we've done all the hard work on the Saturday, then they're going to be doing all the hard work on the Sunday.
That does work out nicely. And
does, yes.
Michelle, would you have some tips maybe for people who, first of all, for people who are on that GB age group team for the first time, because it can be a little bit daunting because suddenly, you get your suit, you've got your surname on it, and suddenly it goes from being another race in your calendar to you thinking, oh my God, it's like this one's massive. I've got a GB kit. Ah!
Yeah. Now I've actually had this conversation with another one of my athletes recently. I think what you have to look at is that it's not, you don't put the emphasis on that it's a world championship event. You try to keep it really calm and relaxed and just say, look, it's just another race, because really at the end of the day it really is. It's like when you go to the Olympic Games, like if you sort of like stand on the Olympic start line and say, this is the Olympic Games, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Oh my God, and start panicking, then, so many things can just be overwhelming on that particular day. I think, you've got to treat it as it's maybe a hyped up situation, it's a hyped up race, but it is just another race. You are only going to be doing exactly the same things. You can't change anything that's going to happen. It's just the fact that you've put a title on top of that. So you have to look at it as more just stay very calm and relaxed and just treat it as just another race rather than it is a world championship or it's a national championship. And I think, it's also your own expectations that you put on yourself is when you get very, very nervous and you can, obviously lose a lot of energy. I think trying to live more in the moment of the race rather than I want to finish this particular place or I'm expecting to do this. I think it's really just go out there and just give it everything you have and live in the moment of the race and deliver the best result you can possibly deliver. And then you will be happy rather than you put an expectation on it, you don't quite get it, and then you feel like you haven't achieved the result that you wanted.
Do you have any mental strategies for people before a race?
Yeah, I mean, I think you should really make sure you focus on yourself. When you go down to a race, start, there's the temptation of looking at people. Oh, he looks fit, she looks fit. Look what he's doing on the warm up. I think if you have your own race strategies, then you go down there. You know that you've got to grab your number. You've got to check. Do your bike transition. You've got to check out the ins and outs of transition. You're focusing solely on yourself. And you're not focusing on what everyone else is doing around you. I've got my own warm-up. I'm going to stick to this warm-up, even though that guy over there is doing that particular warm-up. Is that right or is that wrong? I know this one works for me. I know this is what I've got to eat before the race. I've got to do the day before the race. I've got to do the morning of the race. And you stay focused on what you have to achieve and what works for you. Then you won't get carried away with what's going on around you because you don't really want to be giving other people your energy. You want to save your energy for yourself.
And do you have a particular favourite event or race that you've done in your career? I mean, you've done so much from Commonwealth Games, Olympic Games. Is there one that particularly stands out?
Oh, I've got a few favourites actually. In terms of in what way do you mean? Like just like one that I've done really well at, or one that I just thought, wow, amazing day?
One that just sticks in your mind.
Yeah. Well, I can say Noosa World Cup in '99 was probably one of my ones that really stick out because it was my first World Cup win. Mm-hmm. And I did come second last out of the water that day. and it was just, I mean, the previous from the World Cup before that, I'd finished seventh, and I hadn't got really anywhere near the podium yet. And, I was improving all the time, but this particular day, I kind of like got to the front on the main pack on the bike, and I was like, "Oh, I'm here. This is the first time I've ever been in the main pack." So, people were looking at me like, "Okay." And people were actually saying to me, "Oh, you're going to win today." And I was like, "I'm still riding the bike. I'm still in the race." And I'm like, "Oh, wow, okay, this is interesting." And obviously, I thought, maybe I can win then, because not because she just told me, but because I know that I'm probably one of the best runners here. And I got off the bike, and then I just took off, and I won by 45 seconds, which was a real shock. And it was just a surreal feeling, really. And it was almost like that's where I felt like I kind of, kind of put the message across that I'm not just a pure runner anymore. I'm actually a triathlete now, and that was only 2 years into the sport for me. So that was kind of a special time for me. And probably one other would be the European Championships when I won, because again I'd come out quite far back from in the water, but it was a course that was quite brutal on the bike and the run, and I just kind of weaved my way through all day long, and then the run was just horrendous and everyone was just crawling up this climb. and including myself. In fact, I got to the top of the hill, and I think I walked around the cone at the top. But that was like I'd hit, like I think I was in like the top 3, and I'd hit the cone, and I thought, I just need a quick breather, a quick stop, like not stop, but it was like a quick 1, 2, and then run. But on the downhill section, we had this massive crowd of people just roaring at you, and that kind of just spurred me on, and I thought, okay, I'm going to really go for it now. And that's when I kind of broke away and got a bit of a gap, and I won, and I didn't expect it, I guess. So yeah, those two kind of just really stick out for me.
I love it. And then what plans then, Michelle, after the World Champs? Do you think you'll carry on doing a few races? Any plans to race triathlons again?
Well, you know what? It's funny. I had this conversation with Stu the other day, and I said, look, after this race, to be honest with you, I feel so good right now. I mean, I feel like, as in, you know, I'm not drinking as much alcohol in the lead up to this. Obviously, you have to be really straight down the line. You know, I'm really trying to pull my diet back in and being really healthy. I'm going.
Don't you love that, Rob? That would be like. I just love the fact that she's going to be going head to head with Emma Pallant.
Are they allowed to draft in this one? Is it draft legal?
That's a good question. But she did, they definitely worked together at the British Championships.
That's what I'm thinking, yeah. They definitely did, didn't
they? So, yeah, who knows?
She was 6th at the 2004 Olympics.
Yeah, there we go.
6th, first British finisher. So it's not a long way off the podium, that is it really? 3 places.
No, really not. No, she's it was just really interesting though, hearing her talk about, you know, sort of, I guess, her career in different stages, her career as an athlete, her career now as a coach, and that decision to go for it this year and see what she can do. She can still, you know, she's got back to the point where she can compete. And she was saying, you know, when she was there coaching Emma and some of the athletes, and she just sort of thought, hey, I'm not too far off here. Well, let's ramp it up a bit and give it a go.
I think the key is, I think I've said this before, I think that athletes as they age, nobody wants to retire. Everybody enjoys racing, and for the most part, it's soreness and possible injury and possible damage that eventually stop people doing the thing, because ultimately we do it because we love racing. Well, not because we love racing, but we love doing the sport. And so if you're injury free, why would you not race? If you can race and not hurt yourself, that'd be fantastic, right?
Yeah. Yeah, true. Exactly. So she's there, she can. So a bit like Caroline earlier, you know, why not give it a go? What's to lose?
Absolutely. Rock and roll. That's awesome. Right, well, that just about brings us to the end of today's show, doesn't it? Some great interviews there, Hels. Well done. Good work.
Thank you. I hope it's left everyone a little bit inspired for the, the day ahead, your training session or whatever else you're doing. If you're driving now, well, hey, I hope we've just cheered up your your journey to or from work.
So let's see how Michelle gets on at the World Duathlon Championships this weekend, and maybe a bit of Cup of Tri Power. We'll see her sneak through for a medal. That'd be
wouldn't
awesome,
it be good? Yeah. So we'll see. Best of luck to Emma and Michelle and everyone else racing out in Spain.
Absolutely. So listen, thanks again to our sponsors, triathlonbox.co.uk. We are bikehouse.co.uk and oxygenaddict.com. And also thanks to all the patrons of the show who donate to keep the show running. We really appreciate it. Thanks for listening. I'm Coach Rob Wilby.
Helen Murray.
And you've been listening to the Cup of Triathlon podcast. Till next week, have a great, safe training and racing week, and we'll see you again soon. Cheers now.